The Allen Lund Company continues to support the owner-operators of OOIDA. Thank you for what you do, and stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
Is this the year that a meaningful truck parking bill gets passed and signed into law? U.S. Representative Mike Bost doesn't just hope so, he intends to make it happen. The sponsor of the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act joined Scott Thompson to discuss why he's more optimistic than ever about his bill crossing the finish line. Scams have become a big problem in trucking in the past few years, but some specific ones have been cropping up with greater frequency. So we wanted to clue you in on what's happening and hopefully help some truckers. I'll talk with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. And finally, while electric trucks aren't mainstream yet, there's a scenario in which they are sooner rather than later, which raises a lot of questions. One of them is how such a new drive system will affect our tire selection process and performance expectations. Andy McCulloch of Michelin walks us through the questions and provides some answers. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. As expected, the governor of Arkansas has signed a new English proficiency bill for CDL drivers into law. It requires English proficiency among truck drivers under penalty of a fine of up to $1,000. Specifically, truck drivers must show that they can read, write, and speak English. The Arkansas law codifies federal regulations that require basic English skills among CDL holders. Although truckers under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's jurisdiction must show they can speak and read English sufficiently. The rule was severely gutted several years ago. And although the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association supports Arkansas's English proficiency law, the association thinks it doesn't go far enough. Doug Morris, OOIDA Director of State Affairs, expressed concerns about large carriers that are recruiting foreign truck drivers to undercut the ability of American truckers to earn a decent living. Morris said OOIDA is actively pursuing solutions on the state and federal levels to right this wrong. The trucking industry is trapped in a cycle of perpetual driver churn, according to new analysis from the OOIDA Foundation. In a recently released white paper, The Churn, a brief look at the roots of high driver turnover in U.S. trucking, the research arm of OOIDA dispels the notion that there is a driver shortage and instead places a spotlight on annual turnover rates of 90% or higher for major truckload carriers. Research analyst Charles Sperry worked on the paper.
I think that one of the main reasons why I decided to tackle it again is there's so many issues that ultimately do tie into this particular narrative. And that as I was looking through a lot of the research that has been done, a lot of times, you tackle one portion of it, you tackle one little corner of it, but there wasn't really very much that we had put out that kind of gives a broad overview. And so we wanted to have something that we could present to, say, lawmakers or rule makers, regulators, or even academics that are studying the issue, something that kind of gives them a good, solid overview of the situation, how it started, what it looks like right now, and what portions of the driving industry it affects.
According to the OOIDA Foundation, the roots of high driver turnover rates date back to deregulation through the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. Deregulation allowed thousands of new carriers to enter the market, leading to increased competition and reduced profit margins.
Yes, deregulation is really the point at which the market completely changed. Before that, the trucking industry was very heavily regulated. You couldn't just jump in and get a job as a carrier or anything like that. You couldn't just start up your own little business. You had to explicitly get permission. It was very complicated, right, and very, very difficult to get in. It wasn't really truly a free market system. Honestly, it was fairly tightly controlled. In the 1980s, that all changed. It was like, let's open up the system, let's let the market, do its thing. The problem is, unfortunately, as that happened, and as people started pouring into the industry, there were a few perhaps mistakes that were made along the way.
Rather than a driver shortage, the OOIDA Foundation said that high turnover has become the standard operating model for large carriers. As for fixing it, Sperry and the foundation said there are a few options.
I think that one major step that you can make is stop subsidizing the carriers with public funds. Stop giving taxpayer money to carriers to fund their ability to just churn through drivers. That would be number one. Number two, you need to make sure that the drivers that are coming into the industry are actually getting their proper training. Unfortunately, many great guys are trying to come into the industry and whatnot, and they go through this, CDL school, and basically they rip them off. They are like, oh yeah, we're going to get you trained up, we're going to get you your CDL, and then the amount of training that they get there is just absolutely pathetic.
Minimal. More from Sperry on the Foundation's report next week, right here on Landline Now. 2 new identical bills reintroduced in both chambers of Congress take aim at cargo theft. Both are called the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act. If signed into law, the bipartisan bills would create something called the Organized Retail and Supply Chain Crime Coordination Center within the Department of Homeland Security. Their job, establishing a plan for eliminating retail and cargo theft and helping people get their stolen goods back. The Canadian Trucking Alliance says carriers are already feeling the squeeze from new U.S. tariffs. In a recent survey, executives at carriers there indicate current business conditions are perilous. Almost 70% of respondents indicated that loads to the U.S. have been canceled or paused. Many report that tariffs are essentially bringing trade to a halt as customers and suppliers struggle to figure out the actual declared product value and who pays for these additional costs. Another major city is clamping down on truck parking. San Antonio this weekend beginning enforcement of stricter parking rules. Some streets that once allowed truck parking now will not. Complaints called into the 311 helpline were used to determine which areas will allow truck parking and which will not. The San Antonio City Council approved the changes last month. For now, warnings will be issued for violations, but starting June 18th, fines as high as $500 could be issued. Signs will indicate where tractor-trailers are allowed to park. Fueling up in Mississippi is about to get a bit costlier. Governor Tate Reeves has set the wheels in motion for a 3-cent hike in gas and diesel excise taxes starting July 1st. That'll bring the rate up to 21 cents. Then it'll go up 3 cents again next year and 3 cents more the year after that, bringing the excise tax up to a final total of 27 cents. The increase is a first of its kind in Mississippi in nearly 40 years. The money brought in will be used to repair roads and bridges. Kodiak Robotics is going public. The autonomous trucking tech company has announced plans to become a publicly listed company. Kodiak said the move, expected to occur in the second half of this year, should allow it to reach a broader customer base. The company's automated driving system has been used to log more than 2.6 million miles on U.S. roadways. And finally, Pennsylvania drivers, be on the lookout for orange cones. The state DOT has begun inspections on 8 toll bridges, and nearly 5 miles of the Schuylkill Expressway on I-76 is being resurfaced and repaired. Periodic lane closures and delays should be expected. For up-to-the-minute updates on traffic and delays in Pennsylvania and any other state, check out our guide under the Resources tab on landline.media. And that's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Split speed limits used to be a much bigger problem, but as more lawmakers hear from truckers about how dangerous they are, split speed limits have begun to disappear. However, New Mexico is now considering a new one through a bill there, SB 226. Contact your state lawmakers at 505-986-4300. Next, Scott Thompson discusses a truck parking bill with U.S. Representative Mike Bost of Illinois. I'll discuss some scams that are cropping up with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department, and we'll find out how tire concerns are different for electric trucks from Andy McCulloch of Michigan. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when you're truck on a cat scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
With rising costs affecting everyone, switching to a genuine Vibrotech TVD viscous damper can help you avoid expensive repairs and downtime. Save money and keep your truck running smooth with Vibrotech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Landline Now, welcome back.
Recent estimates are right now that for every 11 trucks on the road, there's one parking place.
That's U.S. Congressman Mike Bost speaking at one of many hearings in Congress he's involved in, and in nearly every single one of them, he brings up the truck parking crisis, hoping to bring attention and action to the problem. But Representative Bost isn't just talking the talk, he's also walking the walk. He's introduced his Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act 3 times before, and he's back with a fourth version of the bill that would allocate $755 million for free, publicly available truck parking spaces nationwide. This is an issue that is close to Congressman Bost's heart, and he joins the show now to talk about the effort and why he's more optimistic than ever that his bill is going to pass this time around. Congressman Bost, first of all, thanks for joining us again. Always good to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you. Appreciate it so much, John.
My first question, are we going to get this done this time around? This is, I think, the fourth crack at this bill, right?
At the truck driving bill?
Yeah.
Or truck parking bill?
Yeah.
My hope is every year we get more and more people on board with it. And I'm going to tell you, why in the world we have to have, because we can show all the accidents. You remember the last time we were pushing it, we had the accident where the Greyhound bus hit the truck and hurt and killed all the people in the Greyhound bus because they were parked on the shoulder. This. I don't want to see more deaths. I want to see action done, and I want the states to move forward, going ahead and getting these parking places in place for the safety not only of the drivers themselves, but the safety of non-commercial drivers that are out there on the road, for the safety of them, not only as far as accidents, but also parking away from areas that are unsafe and where they can be robbed and murdered, as has happened so many times, and what it does to production. You know, we got the studies last year that it's going that according to the study that was done, an average driver spends 45 minutes a day looking for a parking space to keep himself or herself within her logbook logged hours.
Yep.
Hours of service. So my hope is, yes, we're getting more people on board. Remember, a couple of years ago, when the Democrats were in charge, we actually got DeFazio that all of a sudden woke up and goes, "Oh my gosh, we need to do this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been telling you that." So.
Yeah, we're certainly going to get into, I think, I do want to know what those conversations are like with your colleagues, and I do feel like there's momentum behind this, this topic and this issue. I want to take a step back, though, before we get into that, because I think there are probably some people out there who are not familiar with this particular piece of legislation, the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. So can you explain to them what exactly your bill would do?
Well, first off, I'm not new to this, and your listeners need to know that. I grew up in the trucking business. I actually ran the trucking, and I know the problems that we're facing. Now, in the House Transportation Committee, what this bill does is it basically allows for money that is put into the transportation bill that because if we give it to the states and they're going to decide to build roads and bridges, they're not going to take the money out of that, unfortunately, to make and expand existing parking areas and create more parking spots along the roads because of the danger that exists. What this bill does is it allows it to be a grant above and beyond the normal highway funds to build these parking areas, expand existing. If you want to expand the rest area, you can do that. We have written it so that if you are a private trucking or private truck stop, whatever, you can build them, but you can't charge them. You can't charge for them. You know, right now there's a whole lot of truck stops that are charging. This would not allow them to do that, but it would allow them to expand as long as they didn't charge, to give the opportunity for more trucks parking spaces to be available.
Yeah, and since you first introduced this in 2020, and we kind of talked about it there a moment ago, but I do feel like there's more awareness about this issue now than there was even 5 years ago.
Sure.
However, that being said, I don't think we've seen much improvement on a grand scale. I think that's probably very safe to say. You know, you talk with truckers quite often. I know this topic comes up when you talk with them. What are they telling you about the situation out there that they're seeing and dealing with every day?
Instantly, every trucking group, as well as those who are support groups for trucking, concerned about the amount of people who are drivers and everything like that, they have come on board with this, and they are lobbying all of their members to make sure that they push towards their particular legislator, even if that legislator is not involved in the transportation committee, to move forward and support this bill. There is no opposition to it as far as the people in the transportation committee, but it's just getting them aware. As I said, the former Democrat chairman of the committee, for many years, he kind of just ignored it and didn't pay a lot of attention to it, and the bill kind of set. And finally, just the year before he left is when he goes, we got to do something about truck parking. I just looked at him and go, yeah, I've been saying that a lot. You know, this is and it's the groups because this isn't a Republican Democrat thing. This is a case of business needs it, public safety needs it, the United States needs it, and some of the things that discourage. You know, some of our fastest growing drivers are women truck drivers. Well, I'm going to tell you, putting a woman truck driver out there and then having to have her go to some of these rough areas where you're going to have to park your truck is not safe for them. It's not safe for a male driver, but it's definitely not safe for a woman driver. And this is some things that we just need to get the general public to understand. This is a public safety issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely is. And, you know, you bring this up every time I see you in one of these hearings, and if it's about transportation, obviously, you're bringing up truck parking.
If you talk about the fact that 45 minutes of a driver's day is spent looking for a place to park, that takes a whole lot of things that need to be moving in that supply chain off the road, looking for parking spots rather than moving down the road just to the place where they have to because they're electronic logbooks.
You know, you bring this up every time I see you in one of these hearings, and if it's about transportation, obviously, you're bringing up truck parking, which I think is incredibly important because there are people, your colleagues in that room, lawmakers, who probably have not thought much about this topic. So the more that you bring it up with them, the more aware they are. And as you kind of talked about there, anytime you talk about this issue with somebody who doesn't quite understand what the issue is or the problem is, it becomes abundantly clear to them why it's a problem and why it needs to be fixed. And you have those conversations all the time, it sounds like.
All the time. Matter of fact, I think it's funny because many of my colleagues that actually sit around me in the committee, they look at me and go, "Are you going to talk about truck parking today?" Give them the chance. Yep, give them the chance. I sure will.
Yeah. What you talked about those conversations, though. Are there any obstacles beyond just introducing them to it? I mean, is the funding aspect, is that something that kind of worries people?
There's always going to be that because in today's world you got to have the pay for. And if we're going to commit some funds to it, that means that some of the other transportation funds are going to be shifted over, right? But it is the case where it's finally got a hot enough subject. And like I said off the start, I don't want to see more deaths to all of a sudden drive it home that this is important. Okay? We've seen enough as far as that's concerned. So but that is a case where somebody said, well, yeah, but are you going to take that out of the surface funds? Well, no, but it still has to have an offset, so it's got to come from somewhere. So if they can argue that, oh, well, I'd rather see it go for a bridge and our highways or expansion of highways or whatever. So you got to do a lot of arguing to explain why it's important.
Yeah, and to continue giving you credit here, the bipartisan aspect of this, right? I'm looking at the bill right now. 14 Democrats are co-sponsors, 13 Republicans, so pretty much split down the middle there. Mm-hmm. And you said it off the top, too. which is important, I think, that this bill has made a bit more progress each time it's been introduced. It's never gone to a full House vote yet, though. Are we going to get there? I ask you the same question off the top, but I get the sense that we've got the right momentum here.
Yeah. The thing is, trying to work with the chairman to make sure we put it. This could be put into the surface bill, and we're moving forward with the surface bill. Okay, and that's so many people just refer to that as the highway bill, but that's what it is. It's about the actual roads and bridges. You know, we have the waterways, we have all that, but this year, this is the time that we're working on the surface bill. So I believe that we can get in.
So you think that may be the avenue this time around to get this thing through? And those conversations are happening.
Then those conversations are definitely happening.
Yeah, and you're confident that they're receptive to this idea? They are,
and you know that's the important thing is getting the chairman on board, which we've got, and then the chairman of the subcommittee on board, which we've got. So yes,
that's encouraging. That's very encouraging.
It is encouraging.
Yeah. Especially, again, this is the fourth time I know this bill, and again,
oh my gosh,
credit to you. I mean, you keep coming back to it because people need to know about it.
You know, when we're all kids growing up, and we wanted, there's that comment that we've heard made in our lives, and that's, wow, that'll take an act of Congress. Well, this is why they call it an act of Congress, because you beat your head against the wall, you try to explain, and then what's really wild is you finally get a few people that are, oh, wow, you're right. And then all of a sudden they either retire or get beat. Now you got to go argue with the person that took over in their spot and try to get them on board. So, but it is what it is, and that's how we're trying to argue for it.
You touched on something that I hear a lot, and I'm almost certain that you hear it more than I do. I'm sure you have to, from people who say, it's not worth it. They're not going to get their act together. I shouldn't reach out to them. I don't need to reach out to them. It doesn't make a difference. There are people listening to this right now. Yeah, there are people listening to this right now who are dealing with the truck parking crisis each and every day. It's not just an inconvenience. It's a safety issue, as you talked about there, and a whole number of other things. Right. Someone listening to this right now, our conversation, who supports this, supports your bill, supports you, and wants to get this across the finish line, what can they do? What should they be doing right now to help you and everybody else that's involved with this get this across the finish line?
About three things. One is if they're involved with any of the trucking organizations, with the independent truckers, the National Trucking Association, your state trucking associations, contact them to make sure that they're on board, which they are, and tell them that you want to encourage, and then find out what they're doing as a whole, whether it's, saying, hey, your particular congressman is not in support. Then reach out to your congressman's office, but don't just reach out to the congressman. If you see the congressman out, make sure you bring it up. If you are reaching out to the office, make sure you talk to the actual staffer that advises the congressman on their transportation issues. And the other thing is to make sure that the general public that does not know and understand this, because they think, oh, this is just about over-the-road truckers. Well, it is until you're the four-wheel vehicle that is on a family vacation and you get a little drowsy and you drive in underneath one, and get the general public around you to understand how important it is.
Yeah, OIDA's fightingfortruckers.com website's a great place to start that process that you just talked about there. Congressman Bost, we've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you for your time, for your work, especially on this topic as well. We really do appreciate it. And you've got an open invitation anytime you want to come on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the help. Thank you.
Our thanks once again to Congressman Mike Bost of Illinois. You can help him get this bill passed by going to fightingfortruckers.com. Landline Now is back right after this.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Landline Now, welcome back. Scams have become a big problem in trucking in the past few years, and maybe they always were, but some specific ones have been cropping up with greater frequency, and they're affecting more truckers. So we wanted to clue you in as far as what's happening and hopefully help some of you out. Here to explain what's happening and to offer some advice are Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Always good to be here, Mark.
Thanks as always, Mark.
Okay, so let's start with this one here that you all set out in kind of a list of what topics people are talking about every week, and that's fake FMCSA emails disguised as a safety audit. And they're using this to do a particular thing. Can you explain what's going on?
Yeah, Mark. I mean, and this is the thing for in the trucking industry, and it's just become rampant, is a new entrant will get an email or a text, but usually a lot of times it's an email from somebody that appears to be with the FMCSA. It appears to be DOT or FMCSA oriented. Well, they get this, and it asks them to enter their carrier information, and it kind of asks for some different information, and they thinking it comes from the feds. They enter this information, and it's not for an audit. It's actually for a scam, and the scammer now has your carrier information, and they use your carrier information to scam others, to go back to brokers and to pull loads that they don't actually pull, to book loads that they double broker out. I mean, it's just crazy the way things are going out there, and most of it starts with an email.
Well, let's talk about what these emails look like and what it is specifically they're doing to make it look like it's from FMCSA.
I mean, they're putting an officer's name or DOT, and then the officer's name and a phone number. They may be getting that information off of the internet, and it might be real legitimate information, but you need to be checking the actual domain of the actual email it came from. Not an email that they have on the letterhead itself, but where did the actual domain, it needs to be a .gov, not a .com or anything else. It has to be .gov. That's the most important thing you can take away from this, because none of these scams are .gov. They may have .gov in the actual email itself, but where did it go on the domain?
Yeah. Anything that says at gmail.com right away.
At Gmail, at Yahoo, any of these, popular, easy, free emails, that's not coming from the feds. It's not coming from your broker. It's not coming from the carriers. They most all have the domain names covered. So if it's coming from a Yahoo or a AOL or a Gmail, it's a fraud 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, something else that I heard, because I've been watching a lot of kind of news programming on this kind of scam, is they've started to replace like one letter in the web address. And one of the typical ones they've done, which I found fascinating, is they replace, like if the letter A is part of the email address, like FMCSA, they replace that with a Greek letter that looks a lot like an A, but it's not.
Comes down to the details, watching these details, because, these scammers, I mean, they're out there all day, every day, just trying to figure out the next scam as you are, trying to go about your day-to-day business, make a living, in a truck and do the things that you would do on a daily basis. And while you're sleeping and, catching up on your rest, these people are figuring out, how's the next scam going to work? How are they going to get into your pocket this way?
Yeah, and some of these letters are asking for your PIN number, a social I've seen. I mean, all kinds of crap. They're asking for your driver's list or vehicle list. A new entrant safety audit, a legitimate one is. They're not asking you for your social. So some of these things, you got to just be mindful of this stuff. And yeah, they'll change the I to an L on the letterhead or remove the S. I mean, they're very creative with it. And you got to be able to pay attention for these phishing attempts.
Yeah, and a lot of what we do in the compliance department is, we have people call us up regularly, and they'll say, well, I don't know, but I had questions about this email, so I thought I'd call you guys and ask. Smartest thing they could have done.
That's what we're here for.
That is what we're here for. Many times I'll tell them, you know what, just forward that over to me. Let me take a look at it. Now, on occasion, something's forwarded to me that is legitimate, and I'll tell them, hey, this is legit. You've got an audit coming up, and, well, then we'll have that discussion. But 9 times out of 10, the stuff that people send in to us is fraudulent. And, and we'll take the time to look at it and to figure it out, because especially a lot of your older drivers, the men and women out there, they weren't raised with this stuff, and it's targeted for them to get over on them. So you know what? As a member, call us up. We'll go through that email. I'll let you know if it's fraudulent, or maybe you do need to update your MCS 150, but DOT does not send out texts about that. And they don't charge $199.95 whatever for that. You can do that for free for yourself. So, give us a holler. I mean, we'll help you get through that and find out if it's real, if there's something you do need to do, or if it's just another scam.
Well, and what people don't realize is we usually put more than one set of eyes on it too, right? I mean, it goes through a process. What we have, there may be 2 or 3 people that get a hold of this paperwork, so we look at it so we can come together and make an opinion. Sometimes we can look at it right off the bat, but they're getting so good to sometimes we have to do our due diligence, and it's not, that's not wrong to have 5 other people look at it besides you as well. I mean, we can all come to an agreement.
And when we see that stuff, then we can get ahead of it and let other people know that it's coming down the line, so they can have somewhat of a heads up.
And folks, if you do want to call compliance, if you do get something like this, the number is 816-229-5791. Again, 816-229-5791, and ask for compliance. And, you guys mentioned something there a moment ago, and I think it's really important. I mean, we're talking about this scam where they're trying to steal your authority information, but a lot of these are scams where they make it look like it's FMCSA so they can charge you for a service the FMCSA will let you do for free. This has been an ongoing problem, I know, for years.
Yeah, it has. I have seen multiple times where somebody will call up and, we're having the discussion, and through that conversation will come up, say, like an MCS 150 update or something like this. And, they'll tell me, oh, yeah, no, I have somebody does that for me. They do it every month. Charge me $199 a month. I'm like, every month. Now, the FMCSA will let you update it every month. That's not a problem. It's not necessary. But it's that these scammers put you on this auto renewal, and they will charge you every month to update your MCS 150. And keep in mind, folks, it's a biannual update requirement.
Every 2 years.
And it goes by the last 2 of your
DOT numbers, yes. Yeah. And so, but there are people that they get caught up in this, And when you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into your business, and then you get an email that says, oh, you're not compliant, the DOT is going to come around and shut you down, and that scares people. And they use that scare tactic to get into your billfold.
One thing in all of this, too, that I think is really important, and this is something I learned from people that gave information about avoiding credit card fraud, and that is if you get an email and it says, click this link, don't. And instead, if you've got something that says this is from the FMCSA, go to the FMCSA website on your web browsers. Don't click the link. Go to it yourself, and if you can't find that notice in there that you're supposed to update, that's another sign.
Yeah, and that click that link, because as soon as you click that link, you let them in. You let them into your computer. They can wreak havoc. They can just don't click the link. Just don't click the link. Maybe we should start a campaign. Don't click it.
Well, that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
it really is. And these things are legion. And I mean, we're talking here about trucking related, but there's all kinds of people trying to get at your money in all kinds of ways. And most of these companies will not ask you to click a link. Go to their website.
Yeah, go to their website. Don't click the link, and be vigilant, because you're right, 100%, Mark. These people are out there just trying to get in your pocket, and once they get in there, man, they're gonna do as much damage as can. Take as much money as they can.
I want to go back to this thing of them trying to steal your authority information. And you've mentioned some of this already, but I want to get a little deeper into what kind of problems you can face if someone does get that information. I mean, how is this going to affect you directly?
Well, like on a recent scam that goes out to new entrants, and it targets, folks that are brand new, just got their authority up and running and, just got that big smile on their face, that trucker grin, thinking they're going to, everything's going to be good. And they target these folks. And once they get a hold of your information and once they have access to it, they will go in and change something on the FMCSA's website as far as your email by one letter or one digit, something very close to what it originally was, but now it redirects the information to them. And then they'll go out and they'll post the truck and get a hold of brokers and book loads that they don't plan on hauling, but they book these loads and then they pose as a broker and they double broker these loads out through the same load boards. And, all of a sudden you have the shipper has put something up there or a broker has put legitimately a load up there, and now there's a fraudulent company under your name. They're using your name, book this load, and then turns around and double brokers it out. And so, there's, can be 3 to 4 victims on each of these issues. And it goes horrible. And if you're a small carrier trying to get off the ground and get rolling and you fall into one of these scams, man, good luck, because your days it's not going to be pleasant.
And from no faults of your own, and with some of these third-party vetting companies, I mean, now you've been targeted for cargo theft or for fraud activity
with a service where you can't challenge that determination.
Yeah. Right, and it's because they, like Tom said, they changed your email to direct it towards them, or your phone number. A lot of times is the other alternative that they use a lot. Just certain things like that. And you usually don't find this activity out until a month or two after the fact. You may get a couple brokers that call you up and say, hey, what's going on with this load? And you have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, and they will come back and list you as a fraudulent carrier, list your MCDOT as fraudulent, and you've done nothing wrong except for allowed somebody to infiltrate by scam. You didn't even know it was going to happen, but they took over your information, and now they are out scamming people under your name. And the other brokers out there, they're not overly concerned about making sure that they get this right. They'll just put everybody on a DNU list, do not use, and just go on about it.
Yeah, good luck booking loads from now on. I mean, your business can be crushed in the matter of 30 days.
Yeah.
We've only got about a minute left here, guys. What do you do if this happens?
Well, I mean, the FMCSA, they have on their website, they have a list of stuff. It starts out with getting a hold of your local law enforcement, writing a police report, getting some information done there. Then you move up to the NCCDB, you make a complaint there. Then you move up to the OIG, Office of Inspector General, and make a complaint there. And you just keep climbing that rope. But, you can make all these complaints and you're still done. You're still out of business. There's nobody out there that is going to fix this for you.
I'll add a couple things, too. You can change your PIN number on your carrier portal. That's something that you need to do. Set up passwords with your insurance company so no one can't file a false claim against you, and then set up passwords with brokers that you use on a regular basis for moving forward, and go and look at their list and take out anybody you don't see through their insurance certificates.
Yeah, you're much better to avoid this situation by doing these things that Aaron suggests than to try to deal with it afterwards, because it's a mess.
Okay, well, guys, we're out of time, but thank you very much for the information.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks always, Mark.
I've been talking with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. Landline Now will be back in a moment.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. Howe's Diesel Defender, available now.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one, That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to Landline Now. The trucking industry is changing rapidly with the introduction of electric vehicles from light commercial vans all the way up to Class 8 tractors. Today we're going to take a look at the way that's affecting the tire selection process along with performance expectations. And helping us do that today is Andy McCulloch of Michelin. Andy is the company's senior CES engineer for the West Coast, and he joins us on the line now. Andy, good to have you back.
Hi, Scott. Always a pleasure to be on the show. And thanks for bringing up a topic that really represents one of the most fundamental changes in the industry in a very long time.
Yeah, and thanks in advance for bringing some light to this topic, which we're going to do here over the next several minutes. Let's start with what we know here, and I guess perhaps more importantly, what we don't know when it comes to electric trucks and tires. Considering obviously that the electric truck drivetrain is such a different concept altogether, do we know a whole lot about how tires are going to perform there, or even if the current offerings are going to work on an electric truck? What do we know? What do we not know?
Well, Michelin's actually been involved in tire development for fully electric urban buses for a number of years. So, of course, the next logical step is fully electric commercial trucks. But the experience with the buses has taught us a few things over the years, which I'll share. But I also want to discuss the tire selection and the maintenance compared to a diesel equivalent. The other thing that's important is to determine where advancements in tire technology need to take us in order to really keep up with electric truck development.
Yeah, I mean, like most things in life, this is an ongoing process. But again, based on what we know, what are some key things you've learned about tires and electric vehicles, and obviously more specifically for our purposes, tires and electric trucks?
Well, it turns out that one of the most important tire characteristics for fuel economy in conventional trucks or diesel trucks is also a huge contributor for extending the range of an electric truck, and that's rolling resistance. So we know that the rolling resistance of the tires can be responsible for as much as 33% of the fuel consumed in a standard ICE vehicle or a diesel truck. But this is even more critical on an electric vehicle because it greatly impacts the operating range of the vehicle. And given the current nature of charging time and infrastructure, the operating range can be a big concern for a fleet. The other factor to take into consideration is that these vehicles are actually heavier than a diesel truck due to the weight of the batteries. And this really impacts the load-carrying capability and limits of the vehicle. So we're already seeing regulation changes that allow for an increase in the gross vehicle weight limits for alternative fuel trucks by 2,000 pounds or so. And we're working to address the load-carrying capability of our tires as well. And this is really especially true on our steer axles, which are already close to their capacity on diesel trucks. But we can also expect a significantly faster wear rate on drive tires fitted on electric tractors and straight trucks, regardless of the tire brand.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think I probably understand why that is, but you are the expert here, so I'll let you kind of explain why that is. But a faster wear rate, what's behind that specifically?
Well, it's really due to a number of things. As I mentioned before, the tread compounds that are designed to provide the best range are not necessarily going to be the best for wear, especially in the sort of applications that most electric trucks are currently employed in, which is very local, regional applications. But in addition to that, the drive configuration on a lot of electric trucks is a big factor as well. A lot of them are a 6x2 tractor or a 4x2 truck. And in these cases, all the torque is transferred to one drive axle instead of two, like on a 6x4 truck. So this can result in the tires wearing twice as fast. And while that's true for diesel trucks as well, it's certainly more of a factor with electric drivetrains due to the fact the electric trucks have no torque curve like a traditional ICE vehicle does, but rather they apply full torque on acceleration. Another factor is the torque value. So generally, the higher the amount of torque being applied, the faster the tires wear rate, right? And electric trucks have a tremendous amount of torque versus a diesel equivalent. Although electric truck manufacturers have been developing how quickly they ramp up the torque for pulling power, there's still a considerable amount of wear being experienced by the tires as a result of the drivetrain. And the other thing to consider is that the electric trucks have the ability to slow the vehicle down without using conventional friction brakes. Nearly all electric vehicles use what's called regenerative braking, which actually helps to put more charge back into the battery for extended range. But once again, that results in a lot of torque transfer to the tires, which can accelerate the wear and fatigue.
Yeah, and that all makes sense as you explain it there. I can tell you faster wear is not really going to be a selling point for anybody out there, but, we control the things we can control. So in this case, when we're talking about the rate of wear, what are some things that a driver can do to kind of mitigate that aspect of all of this? And I would assume it comes down to maintenance.
Exactly. Maintenance is a big part of it. So let's start with that. One of the maintenance items that really doesn't change between a diesel and an electric truck is air pressure. So you still need to match the pressure with the load that you're carrying according to the data tables for the tire manufacturer. Since we know there's an increase in axle weight and also higher gross vehicle weight, pressure maintenance is going to be key to preventing overload situations. Unfortunately, this may result in having two different sets of air pressure specifications, one for electric vehicles, one for diesels within the individual fleet. But whether it's diesel or electric, improper air pressure will have a negative impact on your range for electric drives, irregular wear, and casing fatigue.
Yeah. So as with any new technology or product line, there are obviously going to be challenges. I think we all understand that. And I suspect a lot of them, with regard to this, we don't even know quite yet what they are. But again, as I said earlier, we control what we can control. And in this case, we work with what we know. So when it comes to the successful adoption of electric trucks, what are some of the keys to getting that done, in your opinion?
Well, the tire manufacturer, we believe that doing our part to support the electric vehicle movement includes educating the consumer on selection and maintenance. And what works well on a diesel truck may not work so well on an electric truck. So I think we'll need a strong emphasis on training, since there'll be a learning curve for tire technicians, mechanics, and drivers within fleets. As for the industry itself, I think the current obstacles that need to be overcome are really range anxiety and charging time. These will eventually be overcome through technological advancements, as well as training of industry personnel and familiarization, that sort of thing. Initial capital costs are an immediate concern, the cost of the vehicles themselves as well. But there are a number of federal and state level programs in place to help mitigate these costs. And as the industry develops, the initial vehicle cost should come down and bring itself more in line with ICE vehicles and diesel-powered vehicles.
Again, this is all moving very fast right now, but if I can ask you to take out that crystal ball that I know you have right on your desk there, what does the future look like when it comes to tire design?
Well, there's no magic formula when it comes to this. The key is for tire engineers and designers to really try and ensure that one, we increase the load carrying capacity, especially for the steer position of the tires. And we might find this requires introducing totally new sizes and pressure tables in an effort to do that. We also want to reduce rolling resistance to help supplement the range of the electric vehicle. And we want to improve the wear characteristics, although this can be challenging since we often give up performances in one area to gain it in another. But finally, the compounds and the tread designs will have to be more versatile by straddling across conventional usage boundaries that currently exist. And that can be extremely challenging for engineers in the industry. But it's a challenge, I think, that we're up to and that we can overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, certainly an interesting and exciting time. We'll all be waiting to see where all of this ends up. But as far as this goes, we appreciate you coming on and talking about all this and giving us your insights and, giving us kind of a glimpse into the future as well. We appreciate it as always, Andy.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks for having me on the show.
Our thanks once again to Andy McCulloch of Michelin, and our thanks to you for tuning in. That's our show for today. We're back tomorrow with another, so we hope to see you then. Either way, take care and drive safe out there.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing.
My kids.
Chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.